We have Mitul Kotecha of Barclays joining us on the phone line for a quick view on what's happening here. Mitul, thanks so much for taking the call. And, we're all watching both Indian equities and the Indian rupee weaken. And maybe to an extent, like Lata also explained, the fortunes of one are tied to the other. What is it that you're hearing on the currency? And I don't know, I'm not trying to, drive up any conspiracy theories, but is this a little bit of maybe an orderly depreciation that right now India seems to be okay with, given what's happening across our border with the Chinese Yuan also weakening in the last couple of weeks?
It's a great question, and something that we have been highlighting for some time, that India is going to be very sensitive in terms of RBI to movements in the yuan, given the widening trade deficit with China, the increased focus on manufacturing and competitiveness with China, and the need for some investment potentially from China to help build or push into the manufacturing base to a stronger level. And I think the fact that, as you were talking about earlier, the fact that dollar yuan has broken through 730 may not have gone unnoticed from the RBI. And I think there's another factor here as well. We do have a new central bank governor, and we yet got to hear about what his policies are on the rupee, but we knew that Governor Das was quite interventionist in his policies, to say the least, and capping volatility. And we may be seeing a sea change in that, although, again, we've had no confirmation of this. But the fact that we've seen a bit more of an orderly decline in the rupee, which, to be fair, is matching some of the moves in other Asian currencies. So it's not that the rupee is depreciating much more rapidly. But at least for now, it's at least a sense of trying to maintain some level of competitiveness. So, as long as the dollar remains strong, as long as other Asian currencies, particularly the yuan, weakens, it does suggest more upside for dollar INR.
Okay. No, it's not so much a sea change in policy that the governor will bring, as much as a sea change in the ecosystem in which he has to operate. New realities and Trump swearing in. But Mitul, the Indian market, the chatter is pretty loud that the yuan may go all the way to 7.45 even before Jan 20th. Do you all have that kind of view?
That's, again, the pace of the move more recently has suggested that there's more weakness in prospect. But our view is that we think that China will wait to see what the shape and magnitude of tariffs that President Trump will enact upon China. And it's unlikely that we're going to see a massive depreciation ahead of some clarification on this stance. And, we just look back at 2018, it took around 4 rounds of tariffs before we saw a significant sharp depreciation of the yuan. I mean, it was weakening, but not to the extent as you would have expected. And I think the point being is that, China may keep its powder dry. We may see the extent of tariffs, and then we may see a deeper weakening of the currency. Our forecast is 750 by year end. So, we still think there's a bit more of a gradual move. That said, and the big caveat here is that if we see Trump enact 60% tariffs on China, we would not rule out potentially a move to around 840 or above in dollar CNY. So a lot depends on the magnitude of tariffs that will be implemented.
Okay, so then your base case is that the yuan remains around the current levels, okay, 7.3 to 7.35 up until Jan 20th, and then take it as it comes. If that's the view, what's the view on the rupee? Is it very, very incremental? Is most of the depreciation over for now? What are the Jan end levels, March end levels?
Yeah, look, I think it's unlikely that the rupee suddenly drops very sharply from here. I think the dollar, already there are signs technically that the dollar has lost a little bit of momentum into this week. I think there is going to be a wait and see ahead of the inauguration. This week is some key numbers in the U.S., and you have the Fed FOMC minutes, and you have the U.S. jobs data, and I think that will also drive direction. So it's hard to see this move accelerating from here. But again, look, we've already passed our key levels of forecast. We were forecasting 87 on dollar INR by end of this year. We've already moved very rapidly towards 86. So moves are quick here in this environment.
So, Mitul, are you likely to then, revise that, forecast in any way, or will you also wait for the 20th of January? Now, I don't know if we'll have all the answers by the 20th of January. That's only the beginning of the policy announcements. I mean, the actual tariff policies, the shape and form they take, that'll probably take some more time to become clear. So, in the interim,
Trump promised some 10 orders or some
on day one,
number of orders on day
25
one.
executive orders,
25 orders on day one.
Yeah.
So we don't know if he delivers that, but I mean, since you said you were looking at 87 by the end of the year, now we're already close to 86. What's your latest forecast?
No, look, our forecast hasn't changed, but clearly we are monitoring events. And you're absolutely right. Look, we may not see... Look, firstly, Trump has already sounded fairly aggressive, right? It may mean on day one we may see some very aggressive announcements. Doesn't mean we'll see those implemented. And, there's some gamesmanship here. But the reality is that we're probably going to see something fairly aggressive in the initial announcements from Trump. And I think that may also have an impact on the market. Another question is how much is in the price. So we will wait to see actual implementation as well. So you are totally right. We may not see, the extent, or it may take some time for tariffs to be implemented, and then we'll see a bigger impact. So, for now, we're keeping our forecast as is, and we'll monitor events as in most people to see where things are. And obviously, a lot of this is unpredictable at this stage, but we are trying to assess what happens in a couple of weeks' time, at least the initial focus on the inauguration.
Okay. Any numbers on the dollar index itself? Is there a chance that it is, by the rumor, sell the news, that actually after Jan 20th, the dollar peaks off? In any case, your levels?
We haven't got any forecast levels here. I think we've already seen if we really look at the chart here, since the end of September, we've seen dollar index move from around 100 to almost 109, a very, very rapid move. We are still very constructive on the dollar, so we don't see, even if we see a pullback here, it looks like it may be temporary. So our view remains fairly constructive on the dollar. But like I said, I think, we will wait to see what happens in a couple of weeks' time. We'll wait to look at we're all very much data watching. We'll see whether the payrolls shows any sharp moderation. We'll see a lot of Fed comments this week, including the FOMC minutes. So we're going to gauge a lot of this for further direction. But at the moment, there's very little to suggest any sharp turnaround in this sort of constructive dollar view, bullish dollar view that we have.
And just a final number, if you can, on the US 10-year yield, 4.62 is also a peak.
Look, I think in terms of 10-year yields, what we've tended to see is we've already moved fairly sharply higher. Our U.S. rate strategists seem to be suggesting a lot is in the price in terms of yields. We will also wait to see the extent of fiscal expansion coming through, and it does look like, even with a red sweep, that President Trump may not be able to get through all of what he wishes for in terms of fiscal easing, and that may at least temper some of the sell-off in U.S. rates and U.S. yields. So for now, we've already moved a long way. We would argue a lot is in the price in terms of the U.S. Treasury market.
Okay, Mitul, thank you very much indeed for joining us and giving us that perspective, which I think is important, that a lot is already in the price. I mean, it's 7.5 for the yuan and 87 for the rupee for the year end. So at least in the near term, it looks like the move, a large part of the moves are over.
And this week, the key data points to watch from the US. On Wednesday, you've got the ADP data. On Thursday, the FOMC minutes for the December meeting, plus the JOLTS data. And then on Friday, the all-important non-farm payroll data and the unemployment. And that will test the strength of the US economy, the dollar index, and where yields head. Thank you, Lata and Mitul, for joining in. We will